Around the beginning of March, my wife's behavior took a strange turn. I have a strong gut instinct, and after she went out with her friends and came home a little drunk, I knew something was off. It was around midnight, and it was unusual for her to go out and get drunk since she usually had to drive home. But that night was different. When I asked her about her whereabouts and what she did, like always did before, she just stared at me blankly and gave short, one-word answers. That's when I knew something was definitely wrong. I started asking her about her daily plans and how her day went, trying to get some clarity, but she started getting irritated and accused me of investigating her. This was a major red flag for me. She became distant and short-tempered with me and the kids. Our son is 11 and our daughter is 6. And then every time she came home, she seemed unhappy and withdrawn. So I made a difficult decision. I decided to get a tracking GPS. It was a conflicting choice because I trusted my wife, and I hoped it was just a phase and not indicative of any serious marital problems. Yes, we had our arguments, since we're both stubborn, but we always managed to work things out. I started tracking her mainly to ease my own worries and to see if she was being honest with me. With the GPS, I knew her whereabouts every minute of the day, or at least where her car was. But unfortunately, whenever she told me what she was doing and where she was, it never matched up with the GPS data. So now I started getting really suspicious. To support my suspicions, I checked her phone records and started noting down when they were 1 to 2 hours missing from her day. She's a registered nurse and recently got a new job at a hospice as a professional liaison, basically a marketer for the hospice. It's a great job with lots of flexibility, where she gets to drive around all day and visit doctors' offices. Plus, they provided her with a laptop and an extra phone, which probably made it easier and more tempting for her to stray. About 3 weeks after I started tracking her, we went on vacation to St. Martin. I thought we needed some time away, just the two of us, without the kids, so we could reconnect. We hadn't been without the kids for 9 years. My best friend and his wife also joined us. I had an amazing time, but it felt like I was on vacation alone. I even approached my wife and told her how I felt, and she responded by telling me to stop acting like a jerk. She would never talk to me like that. The funny thing is, we had closeness the whole time. It was like we were young again. It was great. So after a week, we came back home on Sunday. Then Monday arrived. Monday, April 29th, 2013. We both went to work and I tracked her once again. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I noticed she parked in the same place she had been before, near a mall. She left around 6. When she came home, she quickly wanted to go to bed. I suggested having closeness, but she just rolled over and said she was tired. The next day, I was taking my son to lacrosse practice around 6 p.m. I texted her and she said she was going to take our daughter to dance at around 6 o'clock. However, while watching the GPS, I saw her going to a house instead. My stomach sank. This was it, I thought. I quickly found someone to watch my son and rushed straight to that location. My mind was racing, not knowing what to expect. I pull up to the location and spot my wife's car parked next to another one. I park down the block and quietly make my way to the front of the house. I try to open the door, but it's locked. I peer through the windows and everything seems quiet. My stomach sinks once again. I was hoping it was just her friend's house or something innocent like that. Until now, I still had doubts that I was going crazy or being overly paranoid. I didn't want to believe that my wife could betray me. I trusted her. And if she found out I was tracking her, it could ruin our relationship. I move around the house and head towards the back door. Slowly, I turn the handle and the door opens. I step into the hallway and hear music coming from a closed door. I brace myself and forcefully push the door open. It slams shut in my face, probably because the guy was standing behind it and heard something. Without hesitation, I kick the door in and it breaks off the hinges, falling on the guy. In that instant, my world crumbles. They are both standing by the bed, naked, and I immediately put the man in a headlock. I start pushing him forcefully, while my wife is in the background screaming, "David, stop! David, stop!" I looked at her and asked, "How could you do this to me?" I told her that I knew it was happening. The man bit my fingers, so I had to let go. I live in Pennsylvania, and when he ran down the hallway, I knew he was going to grab a tool. I got up and quickly left the house. I hopped into my car, and the man came out of the house, naked, holding the tool and pointing it at me. It was unbelievable. I was trembling with fear. I drove home in a state of hysteria, crying and shaking the whole way. Later that night, she came home, and we both cried and apologized to each other. It was a sad scene. She showed a lot of remorse for the first 2 days, but then something strange happened. She started becoming angry and unapologetic. How could she do that? What have I done? During our conversation, she claimed that I had been mentally manipulating her and being really mean. I'm not a perfect husband or man, and yes, I work in construction and sometimes use curse words. But the accusations of me threatening to destroy and slap her were too much. I might have said some mean things on occasion, but never with the intention of being hurtful. She let it build up to the point where she distanced herself from me, and even talking to me became too much for her. She never approached me honestly to let me know that something was wrong. I sensed that something was off, but I didn't realize it was this serious. I always tried to stop the arguments and would ask why she was being difficult. I felt like I did everything I could to make things right when we argued, but she was unreceptive. This has been going on for more than 2 months. It takes effort from both of us, but I understand that we can work on our marriage. I asked her, and we went to counseling twice because I genuinely want to make this marriage work. I want it to be good for me, for her, and for our children. Her background includes a broken family where her mother cheated on her father. She's still living with the person she cheated with. On the other hand, I come from a family that values loyalty and love, where marriages last and people are committed to working through challenges, knowing it makes them stronger and better individuals. Quitting has never been an option for us, but right now, she has taken on a what's the use attitude and wants out. She's not even giving me a chance to improve things, even though I've been trying all along. It's incredibly heartbreaking, and I feel like I'm falling apart inside. I'm usually a strong person, but this is shaking me to my core. I have always been loyal and stood by her through thick and thin, in sickness and in health. And this is the gratitude I receive. No respect for me, no respect for herself, nothing. She never considered all that we had together, including our wonderful children, whom we raised with so much love and care. They are going to be devastated because of this. She wants to end things with the help of a mediator, but I still want to keep my family together. It's been 3 weeks now, and I believe she's still involved with this man, or whoever he is. She claims she had no intentions of being with him because he's married and said he would leave his wife. However, after reading their emails and seeing the pictures they exchanged, it's clear that they did have plans. I can't believe this is actually happening. She's living in a fantasy world right now and is willing to throw away everything with just a signature. I don't give up easily, unlike her. It's hard for me because I still love her deeply. We've lost the ability to communicate, and resentment has taken hold. She's so consumed by anger that she can't even have a proper conversation. It's difficult to continue living together when she ignores me and acts like I don't exist. I'm devastated. I don't want a divorce, but I can't keep being treated this way. Any thoughts or advice would be appreciated. I have to admit, I've done a lot of stupid things in the past 2 weeks. My emotions are all over the place. I begged, I got angry, and called her names. I took all her belongings and threw them on the front lawn, along with a sign saying my wife had an affair. I even called her workplace, although she didn't get fired. She might if I call again. I said hurtful things like wishing she would get a terminal illness and I wouldn't attend her funeral. But I also told her that I love her, and I texted everyone, letting them know about the affair. That last one happened on the second day after everything happened. I was hurting, you know? Can you blame me? Seeing the person you love do this to you is like a punch in the gut. I know she's sorry and she's hurting too. I just don't want her to get hurt again, and honestly, I'm worried about her. I'm fine with either outcome, but I at least want a chance to fight for our relationship. Call me crazy, but I don't want to give up without putting up a fight. That's just who I am. Well, I decided to call her workplace because they provided her with a company phone and laptop, which she used to carry out this affair instead of using her own, which I knew about. I'm not unstable, just really angry. I believe God was looking out for me that night because I didn't have any weapons with me. I usually carry one, but that day I didn't. It's funny because if I did have one, this whole situation probably wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But let's get serious here. I love my wife unconditionally because I was raised in a good home with good values. She, on the other hand, went through a divorce and had a tough childhood since she was 6 years old. Just wanted to point that out. I love my kids. And yes, I realize that telling everyone about what happened may not have been the wisest choice, but I have to admit it made me feel somewhat good. Oh, and I forgot to mention the best part. You're going to love this. Last Sunday we were talking in bed, and I told her that I'm not a pushover, as someone suggested I might be an insecure weak man, and that I'm over the whole situation, and I just want her to be happy. We even hugged. It was nice. But then I said that I'm going to start looking around for someone because I was feeling lonely. Guess what? She completely freaks out, starts slapping me, and screams at me to get out of our house, even though it belongs to both of us. She runs into the kitchen, and I follow her, telling her that she's crazy. And then the worst thing happened. It showed me how messed up and lost my wife truly was. She grabs the butcher block, takes out the biggest butcher knife from there, and points it at my chest, telling me to get the hell away from her. I calmly stepped back and called the state police. The long story short, I could have had her arrested and sent to jail, but I decided to let it go. Now I'm worried about my children and myself. What will happen next? You see, my actions aren't the actions of a man who's losing it. No, my friend. I'm just witnessing my wife make all the so-called right moves. I really want her to snap out of it. But folks, I have all my evidence lined up. Oh, and yes, his wife knows about the affair, as well as his mom and his employer. Update. Well, I have to say that the whole butcher knife incident really hurt. I mean, up until that point, it was already painful dealing with the aftermath of an affair. But when I looked into her eyes and saw how far gone and messed up she had become after all these years of happiness together, it was truly devastating. She claimed that I mentally manipulated her and constantly threatened to slap and destroy her, which was a complete lie. And then to have her actually threaten me like that was just too much. I might even consider getting a protection from PFA order, although it feels like twisting the knife at this point. But it wouldn't hurt to take steps to protect not just myself, but also my kids. I've reached a point where I've given up, and strangely enough, it feels liberating not to care anymore. It really puts things into perspective for me. She's just too immature and wild, and definitely not mature enough for the professional world. If she wants to use closeness to climb the ladder, then she can go right ahead. What I need is someone who will love me unconditionally, like I do for her, but also respect me as a real professional and a real woman. I deserve better, but I want to make it clear that I'm not rushing into any legal paperwork. She wants to handle things through mediation and get an easy way out because she failed to prepare herself. Maybe she thought she wouldn't get caught, and now she wants to avoid spending money on a lawyer and making her case, thinking it'll be a joke because I have a powerful attorney who knows how to handle these situations. She'll end up with nothing. I have the kids, so I can rest assured in that aspect. I handed her the divorce papers yesterday, and suddenly she started crying, sobbing uncontrollably because she realized the serious consequences this would have on her career, our children, and everything else. She pleaded with me not to go through with it, saying she wanted us to handle this in a civil manner. But honestly, after being together for 16 years, married for 9, and throwing everything away in just 2 months because this new guy was nice. Sorry, but Mr. Civility has left the building. I think now I'm just out for revenge. I refuse to be made a fool of. And honestly, I don't even care if I have to be around her for the next 12 years until our youngest turns 18. I want her to feel uncomfortable and regretful every time she sees me. Nothing less will suffice. As for my children, I'll take care of them because I'm a genuinely good parent. Every decision I've made in my married life has been with their best interests in mind. It seems like this world is filled with cowards and liars these days. Listen, everyone. Unfortunately, this is the reality of my situation. It's happening to me. My hearing for the protection order is tomorrow. She knows where I was the entire weekend, so I'm covered in that regard. Should I still go through with it? Because, honestly, I don't want her around my children until after the hearing. especially given what I discovered about her taking pills. Is that a smart move? Just to show that I'm serious about protecting and ensuring the well-being of my little ones. Edit. The logical thing to do is that I went inside her car and found the pills. I saw the residue, even tasted it to confirm, because she was looking up ways to hide it. But little does she know I have the second key fob. So it was pretty easy to uncover. I'm not that stupid. Yes, they met through their careers, but they don't necessarily work together. Then at the hearing tomorrow, they'll see that I'm not joking around and that the protection order wasn't out of spite. It will demonstrate that I'm taking all the necessary steps to protect my children. And when I bring up the pill situation, they'll understand that I'm serious. I'm coming back from a vacation in Virginia Beach with the kids, and if I go back home and sleep under the same roof as her, then the protection order is a joke. You know what I mean? Update. Just got a 3-month PFA no-contact order against my wife. Pills situation is only for custody. The issue with the pills only pertains to custody. We're headed towards divorce, and I think she'll soon try to get one against me as well. Ha ha ha. I hope they realize it's just out of spite. She's planning to file for divorce first, and then she'll focus on custody. Well, I'll make sure the custody arrangement is in my favor. I'm staying strong for my kids because I've already processed the shock. We initially said we would handle everything outside of court because she has no idea about the damaging information I have if she knew her chances would disappear. Now she's acting nice, but I don't want her to suddenly turn around and claim full custody, which she probably will. Can't trust her. She hinted at it one day by saying things like, I want better for my kids and I deserve better. That wasn't really her talking. That's why I have a private investigator currently gathering information about her. If I find evidence of her pill use, I'll file for custody. Now I have to wait and be patient. At least I have an insurance plan just in case. Well, here I am a month and a half later, thinking my world was destroyed by this woman who ruined my family and me. But you know what? Screw it. You can't hold on to something that doesn't want to stay. And I keep discovering more messed up things. I put down my guard, called off the private investigator today, and filed for divorce. Initially, I told her that if she wants to end it, she should file. But nope, she's showing no sign of taking any responsible action in this matter, so I took the lead. It feels good to be in control again, and this time it's totally in my favor and my children's favor. I'm doing what I have to do, because honestly, she's been using my benefits to engage in reckless behavior, and that's going to end. I have a beautiful townhouse that I'm moving into on July 7th. And I'm really looking forward to it. And you know what? Among all of us in this thread, I've been talking to so many women. It's insane. Turns out there are still more good people in this world than bad, because I've been talking to all the good ones, apparently. Divorce is more common than I thought, which is sad but true. There are so many people out there who have been hurt, while the other half seems to be evil. But you know what they say? Karma is a bitch. Now that I'm taking the necessary steps to end this and regain my sense of manhood, I feel amazing. Time alone doesn't heal. It's what you do with that time that truly matters. And this realization has made me stronger than ever. We can definitely move past all this nonsense. My focus now is on my children, and they know how much I love them. I'll always be their daddy, and I'll always be there for them, no matter what. Remember, living well is the best revenge. Wish me luck. Oh, and one more thing. I had all these pictures and footage from the private investigator. I was actually thinking of making a YouTube video and sharing it with everyone as a farewell gift. Ha ha. It's only fair, right? Second story. Back in college, I met this amazing woman who I thought was the love of my life. We dated for a solid 2 years and had a grand wedding after a 10-month engagement. Her family had some money, and they lived in a small town down south. We were both working on our education goals. I was pursuing a master's degree in engineering, while she was finishing up her doctorate in anthropology. During the summer, she got an opportunity to make some extra cash by being an assistant on a religious studies trip to Jamaica. When she asked me about it, I didn't think twice. I mean, she would get to visit Jamaica and even get paid for it. I saw no downside other than missing her presence at home for 6 weeks. Little did I know that she had been sneaking around with the professor who had arranged the trip. We had even hung out together, smoked weed, and had a few drinks. I considered him a friend. The trip turned into their personal getaway to fool around all over the island. Meanwhile, I was clueless and happily going about my weeks, working extra shifts to match the money she was making so I could surprise her. It was actually one of the students from the trip who reached out to me and spilled the beans. At first, I didn't believe him, but then I started looking for evidence on my own. One night, while she was asleep, I couldn't resist the urge and checked her texts. Surprisingly, there was nothing incriminating there. But then, I stumbled upon a few voicemail messages, and that's when it hit me. There was a message from that jerk professor expressing his excitement about how close they came to getting caught. That was the breaking point for me. I opened up her laptop and dove into her emails. It was a heap of garbage, with them making fun of me for being clueless and boasting about their escapades in our bed. It was absolutely heartbreaking to discover so much betrayal. I was still too hurt to take any action, feeling completely lost. I had no clue what to do, so I decided to sit on it for a couple of weeks and try to act as normal as possible. Suddenly, I started noticing everything, and I felt incredibly dumb for not seeing the signs earlier. There were so many of them, but one stood out in particular. I realized that our stash of homemade marijuana oil, seriously, if you haven't tried it, you should, was decreasing, even though we weren't getting close. It was obvious that they were using the product of my hard work to enhance their pleasure. This made me furious, like ridiculously angry, Hulk-level mad. That's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was a complete joke to these jerks, and they were taking advantage of the oil I made while fooling around in my bed. I didn't feel hurt anymore. All I wanted was to make them hurt. So, while she was supposedly studying at the library, I prepared a new batch of oil. I made sure to add enough marijuana to maintain its usual scent, but I also mixed in some poisonous ivy from our backyard. After refilling the spray bottle we used for application, I patiently waited. A few days went by and I started working extra hours just to be out of the house more often. Then it happened. Bam! They took the bait. That night, after she fell asleep, my plan swung into action. I sneaked her phone away and deleted my contact information, replacing it with his number saved as mine. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. It felt like I was 5 years old on Christmas Eve, filled with anticipation. Dawn broke, and she was in the shower. That's when I received a text. "I'm super itchy. Are you okay?" Now, my moment had arrived. "Listen, I thought it had cleared up, but I guess I had a flare-up. I'm sorry, but I have an STD, and I guess you have it now too." I could hear this witch squeal in the shower, and I had to cover my mouth to keep from bursting into laughter. I continued to tell her that it was time to end things. A new semester was about to start, and I kind of had a small crush on another teaching assistant. I wanted her to be furious. This woman never heard the word no while growing up and had never faced rejection, especially not from a balding guy in his 50s with an STD. When she finished her shower, it was evident that she had been crying, but I could also see the anger burning in her eyes. She seemed so uncomfortable, squirming at the table, sipping her coffee and pondering the situation. She needed another little push. In response to her lengthy messages filled with anger and sadness, I simply said, "Thanks for the good times, but let's keep this between us. I don't want to ruin my chances with someone else." She was now boiling with rage. Without even saying goodbye, she grabbed her keys and stormed out the door, and I knew exactly where she was heading. I fired up her laptop and initiated a reformat, wiping out her dissertation and any related notes before trailing her to the campus. I parked a couple of lots away and hurried to his office, where I found her yelling at him for giving her an STD. There were a bunch of people there, professors, assistants, students, and other staff. It was both painful and satisfying to witness. He was beyond embarrassed and utterly confused, while she was ugly, crying in front of her peers. I felt like I was in heaven. I didn't even care if people thought I had the STD too. The aftermath was catastrophic within their department. He ended up losing his job due to a breach of the university's code of conduct. We got divorced the following year. State law required a full year of separation before granting a divorce. Fortunately, I managed to retain most of our assets, mainly our savings. It wasn't a huge amount, but I had worked hard for it. She never completed her doctorate and ended up becoming a perpetually pregnant housewife who sells Herbalife on Facebook. As for him, he now teaches at a high school. It took a few years for everything to unfold, but witnessing it all was absolutely glorious.